It started with the biggest pipe bomb the FBI had ever seen.
There is a bomb in Centennial Park. You have 30 minutes.
It ended in a dumpster after the largest manhunt in American history.
My knees knocked so hard that I was about to answer them. That's how nervous I was.
Eric Rudolph and the rise of anger.
Domestic terrorism has been metastasizing across the country for a long time now.
True story, true crime, true consequences for us all.
American Shrapnel, from award-winning journalists Becca Andrews and John Archibald, two-time winner of the Pulitzer Prize. Now available wherever you get your podcasts.
As a scientist, I can tell you that Sundays are only 24 hours long. But with NFL Sunday Ticket and YouTube TV, you get every game every Sunday all in one place. That's upwards of 30 hours of NFL in one day. How can there be 30 hours in 24 hours, you ask? I have a theory. Magic. New users get NFL Sunday Ticket for 8 payments of $34.50 per month. Sign up at NFLSundayTicket.com. Local and national games on YouTube TV. NFL Sunday Ticket for out-of-market games excludes digital-only games and commercial use. Terms and embargoes apply. Availability varies.
Buckeye Talk is about to begin. Hey, 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 come on in.
Welcome back to Buckeye Talk. I'm Stephen Means. That's Stefan Krajisnik, and that is Andrew Gillis, and this is your big Thursday pod. I told the Texans earlier this week, 614-350-3315, we were going to be doing a lot of quarterback talk this week. We talked about Julian Sayin on Monday. Stefan and I did. I talked about Julian Sayin with the Texers on Tuesday and had technical difficulties, and so it went up on Wednesday along with a pod that features some stuff we talked with Ryan Day about. And now we're going to do it on Thursday as well. We're going to be ranking the quarterbacks on Ohio State's schedule. This is actually a pretty quality year of quarterback play for Ohio State in terms of matchups of Julian Sayin versus the field. Obviously, that started in week 1 with Arch Manning. In week 2, they're playing a G5 school, not even G5 school, FCS school, a lower level SWAC school, so maybe not as much so. But the 10 quarterbacks left on the schedule are pretty quality for a lot of different reasons. And we're not just going to rank them of who's the best. It's about biggest threat. And it's about what type of threat they are when we get to that point on the schedule. Because the Bryce Underwood of September, as you're listening to this pod, is not the same Bryce Underwood that Ohio State is going to be playing on November 29th and on down the list. So here are the quarterbacks we're going to be talking about in terms of ranking. Parker Navarro, this Saturday, Ohio's quarterback. Damon Williams, Washington's quarterback, will be on September 27th. Drake Lindsey, Minnesota's quarterback, will be October 4th. Luke Altmaier, Illinois' quarterback, will be October 11th. Billy Edwards Jr., but then also Danny O'Neal you read around, he might be in the mix at that point. So, like, Wisconsin quarterback on October 18th. You got Drew Aller at Penn State on November 1st, coming off of a bye week. Right now, Ryan Brown, I think, is a starter at Purdue. Anything is possible with Purdue, though. Who knows? So, but Ryan Brown for now. Nico Iamaleava at UCLA on November 15th. Ethan Kaliak Manis at Rutgers, November 22nd. And then Bryce Underwood on November 29th at Michigan. So 2 other 5-star quarterbacks, along with Julian Sayin on Ohio State's schedule here coming up soon. Let's talk about Parker Navarro first, because that's who Ohio State plays this weekend. And we can dive deep into like the type of threat he will be. But we're not going to rank Parker because Ohio's not going to beat Ohio State. And I don't think there is enough he can do to beat Ohio State. I know Andrew went to OU, and he's going to be waving a green and white flag coming into the stadium on Saturday night and all those things.
Nope, not in the press box. No cheering. They make the announcement before the game.
I mean, you can go upstairs on the roof and do it. I didn't say you had to be inside the press box when you did it. It says no cheering in the press box. It doesn't say no cheering at Ohio Stadium. So you can do whatever you want as long as you're not in the press box. We are not going to rank him officially in our list because it's just the talent gap is still too wide. We're looking at OU more of like a how can they poke holes in Ohio State's defense more than a what can Parker Navarro do to actually beat Ohio State. But I did not tell Stefan and Andrew that until 30 seconds before we pressed the record button because I still wanted to have a conversation about him and maybe where he fits in with these other quarterbacks. And Andrew, I'm going to let you start. If he was at any of these schools on Ohio State's schedule. Any of these Big Ten schools, Washington, Minnesota, Illinois, Penn State, Wisconsin, Purdue, UCLA, Rutgers, and Michigan. Which quarterbacks could you trade him for? And then you could have a conversation of, oh, Ohio State might be in trouble. They might lose this football game.
They might lose this game.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's that significant of an upgrade coming with Navarro. Okay. I do think, I said this on one of our videos, like, I do think he starts at Minnesota. I do think he starts at Wisconsin. I do think he starts at Purdue. If you, for anybody that may have watched that Rutgers game on Thursday night, it was like the Thursday night before week 1. He was the best player on the field that night. So like he starts over Callie McManus at Rutgers. So there are names that you could.
UCLA. You forgot UCLA. I'd take him at UCLA.
That's an interesting conversation.
I would take him at UCLA before I took him at Minnesota.
It's an interesting. So I was going to raise that issue because I was going to say there's a few questions. I think there are a few locks, which are just he's not starting at Penn State. He's not starting at Illinois. He's not starting at Washington. He's not starting at Michigan. But I was going to say there's a few schools that you could point to, and UCLA is one of them. Purely in terms of talent, Nico's better. But in terms of kind of how they play the position and things like that, Navarro would give you something in terms of, in terms of his, acumen at the quarterback position. I mean, this is a guy who, when you look at like his career stats, he began at UCF. I mean, this is an experienced college football player who has won a conference before. So I know it was the MAC, but Parker Navarro would start at a couple of Big Ten schools, but it's not like wow, Curtis Rourke is at Ohio and Curtis Rourke can go to an Indiana who brings in a bunch of pieces and then all of a sudden he's an NFL guy. That's just not the conversation with Parker Navarro. But I think it is foolish to suggest that, because he has a white Ohio helmet or green or whatever they're going to wear this weekend, that player's never going to play in the Big Ten, because he would certainly start at some of these Big Ten schools.
Are we sure about that? Are you sure Nico's, because what are we basing that Nico's more talented off of? Because he's played football now. So that ranking that he had in high school does not matter anymore.
Sure.
In fact, that 23 class, those 5 stars, not great so far. Not great.
Sure, but I also saw him throw, whatever, like 3,000 yards and 20 touchdowns and 5 picks in the SEC last year for Tennessee. Like, I understand, like, he did start at Tennessee and they were a playoff team and he did put up decent numbers there. So it wasn't like he was just like, nothing. And we're basing a 5-star guy off of like pure hype because he threw 4 passes. This is not, I'll put it like this. Like, Nico Iamaleava has at least played football. When everybody talked about Arch Manning, it was an idea. With Nico, it's like, okay, well, he's at least done it. He's at least played football and played football at a level to where you go, wow, that guy can spin it. It's just a matter of how consistent that can be.
He threw 19 touchdowns last year in the SEC, and an offense that likes to throw it all over the place. Josh Heupel turned the offense into a power run team. I get it. He played football in the SEC, but now he's in the Big Ten, which is the tougher conference, man. It's the Conference of Champions. He's in the championship conference now. And Parker Navarro is 1-1 against Power 4 teams this year. Nico Iamaleava is 0-2 against Power 4 opponents this year.
I agree. I'm high on Parker Navarro, and I like this conversation of which school he would start at. I'm also open to the idea of he's good and he's fun because OU had a really fun week 1 game. I'm also willing to pump the brakes a little bit. He did not look good against West Virginia, and I know he's playing for Ohio, and the other team's supposed to be a Big 12 team, but I think sometimes we see these guys, we're like, whoa, Ohio's quarterback is good. We didn't expect that. And it's like, well, okay, temper it a little bit.
His decision making at the end of that West Virginia game was not great.
I'm hesitant I'm hesitant to say he would start at Minnesota, and I can be talked back and forth on the UCLA thing. Rutgers I could see it. Purdue I could see it. Wisconsin I could see it. But that's probably, I don't know if I would go as far as Minnesota yet.
I think Drake Lindsey is good. He's just young and raw, and he doesn't have the Ohio State spear around him in terms of weapons to mask some of his deficiencies. And that's not a shot at Julian Sayin. 2 things can be true. Julian Sayin is going to be a top 10 draft pick one day. Julian Sayin is also playing with a bunch of players who are going to be top 20 draft picks one day. 2 things can be true.
Yeah.
And that's what makes
Joe
Ohio
Burrow
State
had also weapons around him at LSU.
Right. What does every NFL team do as soon as they get a first-round draft pick who shows even a little bit of juice? Put some weapons around him and let's see what we got here while he's still cheap before he starts asking for $50 million a year. You're probably right. Nico Iamaleava is probably bad. That class of 5-star quarterbacks has not been great. And some of them have bounced back. Right, Jackson Arnold, I think, has looked pretty quality so far at Auburn this year. Dante Moore, now in a more structured environment. I mean, you are a product of your environment. He was at a failing UCLA school. Now he spent the year behind Dylan Gabriel. Now he's a starter at Oregon. Maybe we're getting a better version of him. Give Arch some time. Maybe he'll be good. But so far, the return on investment on that group of 5-stars has not been great. And so maybe Nico is fighting against expectation in a way that Parker Navarro isn't. So they might be just as, if Parker Navarro is as good as Nico is right now, that's him being better than expectations. If Nico Iamaleava is as good as Parker Navarro is right now, that's him failing to meet the expectations. And maybe I'm going a little too far that way with it. So you're probably right, Andrew. He is. But okay, that's Parker. He's a threat. We'll dive in the war of why he's a threat tomorrow on the game preview pod, because I think that's going to be the bulk of what we talk about. That, plus I do want to talk a little bit of special team stuff tomorrow, because I just don't, I mean, the punt returning is not great right now, but neither is the punting. But we'll talk about that tomorrow. Stefan, you first. 9 quarterbacks that we're ranking based off their threat level. Who is number 9 on your list?
I have Ryan Brown from Purdue. I will preface this by saying that I'm not 100% sure he's the worst quarterback on this list. I think there's another quarterback I think might actually be worse than him. But like you just said there, you're kind of a product of your environment sometimes. I don't think we talked about it on this podcast, because I don't know why we would have talked about Purdue either of these first 2 weeks. But I was drinking the Barry Odom Kool-Aid like quietly to myself a little bit after their, I think it was like 31-0 week 1 win against Ball State. And then like week 2, I watched a little bit of their game against, I think it was like Southern Illinois, maybe. I can't remember what the school was. And they won, but it was not particularly inspiring. I think Barry Odom has this Purdue team in a better spot. They're closer to being Ohio on Ohio State's schedule than they are to being, like a Wisconsin. So like I think there's even a gap there. So I went with Ryan Brown just because I think that dude could ball out against Ohio State and they'll still lose by like 20.
I think my problem with Brown is he's played FCS school and a G5 school, so it's Purdue.
Without a ton of data before this year.
Right, which is why we're having the conversation of projecting of where we think that game will be where Ryan Brown will be by the time you get to November 8th. Right, because by then Purdue will have played some Big Ten opponents and you have a bigger picture story. But I guess if you're just looking for traits, if you're looking for tendencies that it doesn't matter who you're playing, you're learning about this quarterback, right? He's 32 of 49, 481 yards, 4 touchdowns, 1 interception. He's been sacked once, plus 16 carries for 55 yards and a touchdown. And a bulk of those stats came against Ball State. So at least in a world where you've only played a G5 school and an FCS school, at least the bulk of your stats came against the G5 school, the better opponent. Because then, I mean, you're right? Purdue probably has more in common with the best team in the MAC than it does the Big Ten right now, with all due respect. I mean, they haven't won an FBS game in 2 years, right?
They're catching up. They're in catch up.
Yeah, they're playing catch up. So the ball shutting out Ball State for Purdue and where they are in their trajectory right now is probably a pretty big deal. That's a good way to start off a new era of a head coach. I think he is a decent quarterback. I think he is in an environment where it is impossible for him to be a threat.
Yeah. Stefan, he's number 9 for me too. I think there was a tight competition for holding up the bottom of this list for me. But yeah, Ryan Brown is 9. You don't really know a ton. Purdue stinks out loud. Like Stefan said, they're closer to being Ohio. Like if Ohio played Purdue, Ohio's probably favored in that game.
Probably.
Like Ohio's like, we'll talk about this on the Thursday show, but like Ohio's proven themselves to be like one of the better G5 teams. And we see it all the time, better G5. I mean, the MAC isn't that good as a conference. Long Island just beat Eastern Michigan. And, I know Ohio's at the top of that G5 pool, but like Ohio's beating Purdue. And I think if you were to say, who would you rather have, Ryan Brown or Parker Navarro? It's Parker Navarro. So yeah, Purdue was number 9 on my list. They're just terrible. They've got a rough ride ahead of them.
Win or lose, do you think he could outplay Julian Sayin? Because this is a conversation of Julian Sayin doesn't have to outplay Ryan Brown for Ohio State to beat Purdue. Like he could have one of those weird, I just had a bad game situations and still win by 17 plus points. There's no scenario where Ryan Brown doesn't outplay Julian Sayin and Purdue wins this game. The only way they even have a sniff of a upset possibly is if because Ohio State was sleepwalking because they were thinking about Michigan, but also Ryan Brown has the like quarterback version of Rondale Moore, but at quarterback. So is that a possibility at all based on what we've seen from Julian Sayin that by November 8th, he's in a position where maybe he can catch Julian Sayin slipping, and by the end of the game, we say Ryan Brown was the better quarterback today.
It would seem to me that in a game like that and the way Ohio State would approach it, the only way a guy like Ryan Brown could outplay Julian Sayin is if Julian's making a ton of mistakes. And with his level of accuracy, I don't see that happening.
Andrew?
Yep. Ryan Brown has to throw, or Julian Sayin has to throw like 4 picks. Like that's it.
So we are universal on Ryan Brown
as number 9.
And again, mine is more just because of his environment. I think if you put him at Wisconsin, it's an Ohio State game on the road. I think, again, small sample size, but maybe he could make something shake for at least 25 minutes there before Ohio State got its head out of his butt. That's number 9. Andrew, who's number 8 for you?
Billy Edwards Jr. at Wisconsin. It was actually funny that we're doing this because during Texas week, I was having a conversation with our columnist, Jimmy Watkins, because we were talking about Wisconsin and kind of the disaster that's going on there. And I asked him, who do you think the best quarterback since Russ has been at Wisconsin? And we had some names, and like, I say this just one to remember some guys, because I said, what if it's Alex Hornibrook? And he goes, dude, there's no way it's Alex Hornibrook. But we settled on Alex Hornibrook or Jack Cohn. So you want to talk about environments where quarterbacks go to die? It's Wisconsin. Like, they have just not had quarterbacks that have been any good in the last, 10 years, 15 years. I mean, Alex Hornibrook, Jack Cohn, Joel Stave, Tanner McAvoy, like, these quarterbacks are terrible and they don't develop them well. And then Billy Edwards has one mediocre year at Maryland where he had one of the most targeted receivers in college football in Ty Felton, Ty Felton's an NFL player. Billy Edwards, I don't think is very good. And I was really having a conversation between Ryan Brown or Billy Edwards. And it hurts me to say that because Billy Edwards is a Northern Virginia guy. He's from very, very close to where I grew up. I hope he does well. I just think he stinks. So to me, it was a very clear 8-9 on this list.
The reason I debated Ryan Brown at Purdue being 8 was because I wasn't sure what the status of like Wisconsin's quarterback room is. Because you mentioned Billy Edwards. I would imagine by the time Ohio State plays Wisconsin, he's ready to go. As we're recording, his status for Saturday's game against Alabama is uncertain. Mm-hmm. So like if there's a maybe a chance he plays against Alabama this Saturday, I would imagine he's available, barring another injury when Ohio State plays Wisconsin. So if it was Danny O'Neal, I maybe would have had Purdue or Ryan Brown at 8 and Danny O'Neal at 9. But since I do think it could still be Billy Edwards, I have him at 8. So I agree.
Billy Edwards has not played a ton this year so far.
He got hurt pretty early in their first game, I think.
Yeah. 28 snaps into the game, he got hurt. So Danny O'Neal's been their starting quarterback the last 2 weeks. Billy Edwards, before he got hurt, was 6 of 13 for 68 yards. We're talking about this is a guy who transferred
against
in from
Miami of Ohio.
Miami of Ohio. Wisconsin, Danny O'Neal, 35 of 46 for 403, 4 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. He's also been sacked 3 times and ran it 14 times for 24 yards. I mean, maybe Danny's better. Again, Billy Edwards was barely out there, so it's kind of hard to get a gauge on that. And it's kind of like it is with Brian Brown, where they've played Miami, Ohio, and Middle Tennessee, and they've given up 10 points on defense. So can I ask a question? Because I'm assuming we all have the Wisconsin quarterback, regardless of what happens in this situation, at number 8. And I'm also assuming that right now we're all unanimous in a no, they cannot outplay Julian Sayin when Wisconsin plays Ohio State. Is that a fair assumption to make about everybody's situations? Okay. Again, it's on October 18th, and it's on the road, and it's the second straight week that Ohio State's playing on the road, and it's before they go into a bye week and spend 2 weeks preparing for Penn State. What if Wisconsin beats Alabama this weekend?
I would think very differently of Luke Fickell's program.
Does that say more about Luke Fickell's program or Kalen DeBoer's program? That would be my question.
Two things can be true, yeah.
I think these 2 things can be true in this situation. If he beats Wisconsin, regardless of which quarterback plays, and the quarterback looks well, And the idea that Wisconsin can throw the ball and not just be a team that needs to have Doak Walker award-winning running backs. If we did this list 7 days from now, would the Wisconsin quarterback skyrocket up your list?
Yeah, probably. And I think at this point we're at the part of the list already where I think if said quarterback plays well, that Ohio State could lose the game. Like that trip to Wisconsin, if Wisconsin's got any sense of anything, then yeah, that's a tough environment for Ohio State to go into. I mean, Oregon nearly lost at Wisconsin last year. And I think I would like to believe that Wisconsin's a little bit better than they were last year.
Gillis, what do you think? Are you open to the Big Ten getting the second win over the SEC this weekend, but then also maybe that drastically changing how we view Wisconsin this year?
I don't think Wisconsin's going to win this weekend, but I don't even think they're going to get close. I think they might get torched. But if it happens, I mean, I don't know how Billy Edwards Jr. doesn't play well and they go down there and win. You know what I'm saying? It's one of those, this dude has to play well for them to win. I don't know if they're just running down there and running for 360 yards on the Tide, and that's the end of that. And Billy Edwards does what Michigan did to Ohio State last year, where their starting quarterback wins a game with 70 yards passing. That to me doesn't really map out. That to me doesn't really jive. I think he would have to go down there and cook.
I don't think so. I don't think Wisconsin's game plan going into that game is not we have to get 500 yards out of Billy Edwards. I think they're hoping that they shut down Ty Simpson and they walk out of there with a 17-10 win.
Yeah, but it's also not hey, he can be mediocre. He has to play well in the spots that they need him to play well in. And if that's the case, if he let's say Alabama or Wisconsin wins that game 17-14 because the game script goes exactly right, and the game script goes exactly like you say it could, and Billy Edwards goes, 12 of 19 for 110 yards and one touchdown pass that was at the goal line. Are we sitting here going whoa, Billy Edwards cooked? Or are we saying, wow, Wisconsin ran the ball well against Alabama?
No, but he could outplay his opposition.
I think Ty Simpson has to outplay Billy Edwards or Danny O'Neal. I think if Danny O'Neal or Billy Edwards, whichever one plays, if Wisconsin's quarterback is as good as Alabama's quarterback, I think Alabama is going to lose the football game.
I mean, we just saw it 2 weeks ago. Julian Sayin threw for 136 yards and Ohio State won.
Right. And Alabama is not even close to being as good as Texas is.
So and I'm just thinking if that's going to be Wisconsin, what we saw from Ohio State week 1 is how Wisconsin's going to have to approach basically every big game because that's going to be their only chance to win. Yep. And I'm thinking about Ohio State versus Wisconsin. In order for Purdue to beat Ohio State, I think Purdue's got to put up some points. I don't think that defense is any good. And that's why I had Ryan Brown low on this list. But with Billy Edwards, could he outplay Julian Sayin? I mean, Arch Manning, if he doesn't throw a pick, outplayed Julian Sayin, right? That's obvious. That is a big if, right? I'm giving you a hypothetical situation where we have facts. That's not what happened. But if Billy Edwards in a few weeks has Arch Manning's stat line, but he doesn't make the mistakes, and Wisconsin's defense shows up, all it takes is one pick by Julian Sayin, and now you're saying Billy Edwards outplayed Julian Sayin.
Tommy Castellanos threw 14 passes. No, he ran it. 16 for 78 yards and one time. And that's an element here. And because of who Danny O'Neal and Billy Edwards have played, I don't know if the running element has been as necessary, but they can run. They can scoot a little bit. Billy Edwards last year at Maryland had 81 carries for 150 yards and 5 touchdowns. So he's not great, right? His best running year was 2022 when he had 34 carries for 136 yards and 1 touchdown. But that was at an abysmal Maryland team who didn't have what they have now at quarterback and what they have around that quarterback now. Do I think Billy Edwards can do what Tommy Castellanos did against Alabama? I wouldn't put money on it, but I'm also, if it happens, not going to be whoa, that shocked me. You want to know what Ty Simpson did 2 weeks ago? 23 of 43 for 254 and 2 touchdowns. 9 runs for 17 yards. So I think I think the quarterback play was a wash. And who won the game? Florida State, 31-17. I don't think it's off the table that Wisconsin wins this game. I get it, Bama's Bama, but Nick Saban ain't walking through that door, man.
The thing is, too, is we're putting ourselves in hypotheticals of what level of a threat can this quarterback pose to Ohio State?
Right.
And right now we're living in a world where Ohio State just won 70-0 in the week before they beat the number 1 team in the country. So I understand it's to say Ohio State even comes close to losing at Wisconsin sounds outrageous to say. You would have said that when Oregon went to Wisconsin as well last year. Like the scenario you have to put yourself in is like, how, in what way can this game play out to where an upset happens? And if that upset happens, what did that opposing quarterback do? I think no matter what Ryan Brown does, there's not a chance that Purdue beats Ohio State. That's why he's at the bottom of the list. Why do I have Billy Edwards one spot higher? Because 12 of 28, 96 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. That's what Braden Locke had for Wisconsin last year, and they were like a final drive. They lost by 3 against Oregon at home. 96 yards, a touchdown, and an interception. So I'm looking at Arch Manning's stat line. He had 7 of 13, 170 yards, a touchdown, and an interception. Or if Billy Edwards goes 17 of 30, 170 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions, could Ohio State's offense just look flat and Wisconsin all out of nowhere, it's a tie game in the fourth quarter? That, and again, a threat doesn't mean Wisconsin wins. A threat means it's a tie game in the fourth quarter and Julian Sayin's got to make a play. Mm-hmm. And you put Ohio State in a spot where its young quarterback has to make a play. That's a level of threat. So that's how if Wisconsin's going to do anything against Ohio State, it's going to be by riding his defense. And if Billy Edwards has anything like an Arch Manning type game, but he doesn't throw picks, he doesn't make mistakes, they're going to be in it. Am I predicting that? Am I betting on that? Absolutely not. But the conversation here is, how does this quarterback make it a level of a threat against Ohio State? That's how Billy Edwards does it. Don't make a mistake. Do what Arch Manning did without the interceptions, and hope your defense does something for you.
I do think this part of the list is a bunch of quarterbacks. For me, the quarterbacks at 5, 6, and 7. By the way, I had Wisconsin's quarterback, whether it's Billy Edwards or Daniel O'Neal, at 7 right now, and I think they could get to 5 if they show me why I have them at 7 on Saturday. I think my quarterbacks between 5, 6, and 7, they're going to need help from Ohio State to actually pull off the upset. But do I think they can do everything they need to do to position themselves to pull it off if and then the last step of that is Ohio State helps them out by not being Ohio State? Yes, I think Billy Edwards, Daniel, whichever one ends up being the guy long-term here, once Billy Edwards gets healthy, I do think they can position themselves to go, we didn't kill ourselves. We took our best shot. And if Ohio State's clicking, because if we find out after the Washington game that Ohio State's just a super team and nobody's with this team, then it doesn't matter. It's like, I don't know, man. Who was stopping LSU?
We asked ourselves if Ohio State's clicking. Yeah, I mean, ask Oregon last year what happens when Ohio State's clicking. You can be on number 1 and undefeated, let alone being Wisconsin or Purdue.
But nobody clicks for 16 straight games. That's just not how football goes. And so can you catch a team on the right day? Nebraska almost caught Ohio State on the right day last year. And I think Wisconsin, and they're going to show me and validate it or invalidate it for me this weekend, but I think there's enough ingredients there that road game, the second straight week. I can't remember the last time Ohio State played back-to-back road. With the Purdue game and the Northwestern games, back-to-back road games last week, I can't remember.
Purdue was at home last year.
Yeah, I'm blanking on the last time Ohio State played back-to-back Big Ten road games. And if maybe somebody's shouting it at me, 614 text right now.
Played at Wisconsin and at Rutgers in 23. So you weren't even there.
Yeah, I wasn't there for one of them.
Yeah, I was there.
That's why I don't remember it, because I didn't go to one because I was at a wedding. So it can get dicey if you don't bring it. Because if you remember, Andrew, that Rutgers game wasn't like a blowout.
Yeah, I was sitting next to oh my goodness, I forget his name, the NJ.com columnist, Scott or Pleady, I think is his name. But anyway, I was sitting next to him, and he was like kind of not panicking, but he was frantically looking up stats of like Rutgers wins versus ranked teams.
Yeah, because
it had reached a point where, like, while Ohio State never felt in danger of losing that game, I think it was like 7-6 in the second quarter.
Rutgers did a good job making it a 4-quarter game. And sometimes that's all you can do is you're a boxer playing against a guy who can knock you out in the first round of the fight, in the first 20 seconds of the fight. Avoid the big hits. Just get to the 12th round.
Losing at that time.
Right. Just avoid the big hits, get to the 12th round, and then take your best shot. And do I think Wisconsin has the ingredients to do that? Yes. Are they going to need help? Yes. But that's why I have them at number 7. Let's take a break, and then I'll reveal my number 8 here on Buckeye Talk.
Does it ever feel like you're a marketing professional just speaking into the void? But with LinkedIn ads, you can know you're reaching the right decision makers, a network of 130 million of them, in fact. You can even target buyers by job title, industry, company, seniority, skills, and did I say job title? See how you can avoid the void and reach the right buyers with LinkedIn ads. Spend $250 on your first campaign and get a free $250 credit for the next one. Get started at linkedin.com/campaign. Terms and conditions apply.
Hey, it's Paris. You know I love sparkly things, right? Like stars. Duh. And thanks to Hilton and AutoCamp, I just slept under them. Picture me, serving looks by the fire outside my luxurious Airstream, making s'mores with the kids, while a national park is our backdrop. The great outdoors meets Hilton hospitality. That's hot. Explore all the new ways to stay at Hilton.com. Hilton for the stay.
And we're back here on Buckeye Talk. Stephen Means, Stefan, Krajisnik, and Andrew Gillis. We're discussing the Big Ten quarterbacks on Ohio State's schedule from a threat level position. I don't think my answer with Billy Edward, the Wisconsin quarterback situation, because of where it is on the schedule, I'm going to say no, they won't outplay Julian Sayin. But it's not as firm for me as Purdue was, if that's fair, simply because, Julian Sayin's he's going to have a bad game. And I'm trying to pick where his bad game is going to be. I don't think it's going to be the Wisconsin game. I don't think either one of you think that either. Here is my number 8, Nico Iamaleava. He's a good quarterback. He's better than Ryan Brown. He's more talented than Ryan Brown. But his situation at UCLA looks very similar to Ryan Brown's situation at Purdue. And also I've seen Nico Iamaleava on a better team go up against Ohio State, and it didn't look great. I thought he fought. He put up a good fight, but it wasn't great. And so now I'm expecting him to be more of a threat on an even worse team with the way this defense has looked through 2 weeks. And regardless of where things are, that's 2 weeks before the Michigan game. So it's not what Ethan Caligak Madness might get, that benefit of, maybe Ohio State's looking ahead. This is 2 weeks before that, man. They're going to be locked in. And it will have been a while since they played at Ohio Stadium. Like 2 weeks. That's not a while, but UCLA is not good. I've seen Nico play against Ohio State before. It wasn't good. So it's kind of hard for me to view him as a threat. And it's also hard for me to view a world where he outplays Julian Sayin. So I had the Wisconsin quarterback situation higher than.
I have Nico at 7. So I'm in lockstep with you. I just, there's no reason Nico should be this low on this list, but that's the decision. That's the environment he wanted to surround himself in, and whatever. Decisions are decisions. Get your bag, I guess. I'm just being honest. The reason I have him higher than Billy Edwards is because if UCLA is going to do anything, I think it has to be Nico balling out, and maybe he catches lightning in a bottle that day. It's going to be incredibly hard to do against Ohio State's defense, where I think Billy Edwards needs more around him to fall into place. I think he needs his defense to show up. I think UCLA's only chance is Nico just lights it up. That's why I have him higher, because I guess maybe that is somewhere in him still. But I'm not going to defend much more of that. I'm not a believer of the Nico UCLA situation. Part of me wanted to put him last on this list, but
I think that's too harsh. Yeah,
it's a little too harsh. But
it becomes like, go ahead.
I don't know, man. That was rough against UNLV. Like the Utah game, I'll give them the benefit of the doubt of their UCLA's offensive line. UCLA just in the trenches, period, could not compete with Utah. Like
they look like a team in a rebuild in the trenches,
and that's fine. Like that, you can't blame Nico for that. But your team is trying to put together a drive against a Mountain West team, and you're thrown over the middle of the field with a linebacker just standing right there. You're a veteran quarterback, dude. What's up with that?
He's better than Ryan Brown. That's why he's not 9th for me. That's it. I hope the UCLA rebuild goes well. But this is only year 2. You can't expect a team's offensive and defensive line to have a full haul turnaround in 24 months, even with the transfer portal, especially if you're going to get kids to go to LA, they're going to go to USC before they go to UCLA. But man, that's a drop off in environment over whatever the reason. Whether the reason was actually money the way we think it was, or is what Nico and his team tried to put out there if they didn't feel like Josh Heupel was maximizing the offense around him. I don't know why you would choose a place that's incapable of doing that, let alone choosing not to do that. Andrew, where's Nico for you?
Before I answer this, because I'm a little bit higher than you guys, but like solely off the player, forget the situation that they're in, would it move for you guys at all or no?
You're asking me if he was at Illinois,
if Nico is at Illinois, if Nico is at a better situation, or if you just like took all these dudes off their teams and said, all right, we're going to put them on generic team A, or we're going to do that thing on like college football where you can like hit the button that makes all the teams even. You know what I'm talking about? Where it's like you do the even
If
teams.
you're just ranking the quarterbacks. You're just ranking the quarterbacks. No
Yes.
context, like just a quarterback. That's why I have him ahead of Billy Edwards.
Yeah. See,
I mean,
have
the only thing that would flip
go
for
ahead.
me, I think the only thing that would flip for me is I would flip him in the Wisconsin quarterback situation.
I have him at 5 for that.
Okay.
I think he's more talented than Lindsey and Kaliak Manis, who I have at 6 and 7. I think the talent is there. Like I've seen him throw it. And look, I asked Ryan Day specifically like last year about like Nico, and he was like, look, you got to be ready for the run. He's got a really strong arm. In terms of like arm talent on this list, he's up there, right? Like he's up there, right? Like while Steven's 100% right when he says 5-star talent doesn't matter at a certain point and recruiting rankings don't matter at a certain point, but he didn't get that 5-star talent because like his last name is Manning. Or he didn't get to that 5-star label because he got to a certain point, right? Like he could throw the ball, and the arm talent's there. He can run the ball. I just think UCLA is like the Titanic, like 2/3 of the way through the movie. Like if UCLA wins 2 games this year, 3 games, we're going, whoa, they really turned it around. Like they're favorites this weekend against New Mexico, and then they play at Northwestern, Penn State at home, at Michigan State, Maryland, at Indiana, Nebraska, at Ohio State, Washington, USC. Once you get through New Mexico and Northwestern, I don't think they're winning at Michigan State. Maryland is a maybe, but their last 5 games are L's, and like that's a best case scenario. 3-9 for a team who just got really like. I don't know if you guys like looked at the box score of that UNLV game, or we're just kind of like keeping an eye on it.
No, I watched part of it.
UCLA had to really mount a comeback to make it look better than it was. That game was 23-0 at one point. UCLA stinks, and UCLA might be on 0-12 watch if they lose this weekend in New Mexico. I don't think they're going to, but he might be in the
New Mexico State.
New Mexico.
I mean, New Mexico put up a fight at Michigan.
UCLA is 15.5-point favorites, at least according to ESPN.
Listen, man, New Mexico put up a fight against Michigan, and I think Bryce Underwood's better than Nico Iamaleava.
But that's my point. Like Nico, I think is in probably. I think frankly he's probably in the worst situation of any quarterback that we're going to talk about on this list.
Purdue is on this list.
Yeah, I know what I said. I think UCLA sucks. Like UCLA sucks. Like Foster's gonna get fired. They're gonna have to burn that thing to the ground at the end of this year. Whereas at least Purdue has kind of already burnt it to the ground and they're building it back up.
I don't know if they're gonna fire.
The earth has not been salted yet in Bel Air, California.
Yeah, but I don't know.
UCLA might not fire Foster, which makes the situation even worse.
Well, I don't know, man. This is his second year, like right. Let's give it. I think it's okay to give a guy some time to like. He's trying to fix a program that was already in the gutter, which is what Purdue keeps trying to do, which is why Ryan Walters, he wasn't a good coach, but also that wasn't going to work out because you're like, oh, UCLA sucks. Deshaun Foster. Okay, what were they before Deshaun Foster got there? Oh, rapidly declining to the point that the guy who was the head coach said, I don't want to do this anymore. I want to go be my mentee's offensive coordinator. So I'm not going to blame Deshaun Foster. It's like blaming a firefighter. How come you didn't put the fire out yet? Because you lit like 35 matches in here, dude. It's a lot of work. And then poured a bunch of gasoline on it. What do you want me to do? I just haven't seen it with Nico, man. And even at Tennessee, I'm looking at his under pressure concepts here. Because I think it's one of the good tells, right? 18 of his 19 touchdowns came when he was clean. Okay, he's not going to be clean here. Under pressure, he threw 1 touchdown and 2 interceptions. When he's not blitzed, 8 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, and completed 65.6% of his passes. Also, when he's under pressure, 37.5 completion percentage to 68.8 when he's kept clean. When he's blitzed, 59.3. That was last year at Tennessee. He also had 17 big-time throws. All of them came when he had a clean pocket. He ain't going to have a clean pocket on November 15th. You want to know when else he didn't have a clean pocket? On December 20th, while playing for a better team, and he was horrid. I don't see it.
No, I thought he was okay, but that offense couldn't do anything.
I thought he was okay as a runner. As a thrower, I thought he was fine. I thought he was fine. But I get it. I get it, Andrew. I don't think it's bad. It's not a bad look, right? UCLA stinks, and maybe it's making a quarterback who's mid stink even more. He's already stinky. Now he's just, please go take a shower.
They took a used diaper and threw it in a trash can with rotting food.
Yeah,
that's what happened.
It all just stinks. Stefan, you're back up, and so far your list is Nico at 7, Billy Edwards / Danny O'Neal at 8, and Ryan Brown at 9.
Yes. At number 6, I have Ethan Kaliakmanis from Rutgers.
Okay.
And actually, and this is also right above him is where I would have Parker Navarro on my list. So wait, hang on. So I actually on my list of 10, including Parker Navarro, he was actually 7 for me. So if you take out Parker Navarro, though, it moves him up to 6. So I think Parker Navarro outplayed him. I think Rutgers just had more and came out with the win. So but I do like Ethan Kaliakmanis though. I don't think he was the reason they lost or I don't think he was the reason that game was close against Ohio. I thought he played pretty well. I think he's a good quarterback. I mean, he's gonna be enough for Rutgers to, maybe be in some games. Going into the season when we had done our predictions for the Big Ten standings and things of that nature,
Mm-hmm.
I think I might have had Rutgers ahead of Purdue because I thought Rutgers was going to win against Purdue.
Yeah.
And Ethan has showed me enough through a couple games where I think Rutgers could still beat Purdue and maybe find itself, in the fight in some games, whether it be, they got Maryland on their schedule. They got Iowa at home. Like there are some games where I think Rutgers could maybe be a little bit better than I had predicted. And he's a big part of that. I thought he's looked pretty decent through a couple games this season.
He is number 6 for me as well. He is another, I actually thought about putting him higher. The problem is my top 5 are quarterbacks. I think might be a chance to be dudes, so it's hard to put him higher. It's more of and Andrew, you've seen this before. The team who gets to play Ohio State or Michigan the week before the game, they just kind of have, I don't know why, but it's just, hey, I know you're
State
worried about
and
that
Michigan
rivalry.
have had real tough scares with Maryland.
Yeah, which is why if Ethan Kaliakmanis played for Maryland, or if this was Maryland instead of Rutgers, I'd be like, threat level high, because it's been multiple times. In 2018, Maryland almost beat Ohio State. In 2022, it was a 4-quarter game that came down to Zach Harrison getting a strip sack at the end of the game and still Chambers picking it up for a scoop and scoring a touchdown. So if this was Maryland, at Maryland, also with who their quarterback is, I think they might be like 2 or 3 for me on my list, just simply because of the placement on the schedule. November 22nd is when they play Rutgers at home. It's their last home game of the year. But it's not. It's Rutgers. Ethan Kaliakmanis is a very good quarterback. I don't think he has the ability to play Julian Sayin. I think he's fine. He's a fine quarterback. He had a quality year at Minnesota in 2023, had a quality first year at Rutgers last year. And you're right. I thought Parker Navarro outplayed him. And if Parker Navarro was on this list for me, he'd be right above Ethan Kaliakmanis, just where you have him, Stefan. He's fine. He's not special. He's not bad. He's a fine Big Ten quarterback. And that's okay to have a fine Big Ten quarterback when you're Rutgers, because that's a step up from where you were 5 years ago when we, on this podcast, were having conversations about whether or not Ohio State could cover a spread of 50.
Yeah, I think this is like the perfect spot for him because I don't think he's spectacular enough to be part of this top 5 conversation, because I do think the top 5 quarterbacks Ohio State's got left there to schedule are really good, but he's not bad enough to be like, think about it. We put Nico and Billy and Ryan Brown at the bottom 3 on our list because we think their situations are so bad that there's nothing that they could do to really become much of a threat. Ethan Kaliakmanis is at Rutgers, and we think that he can pose more of a threat than a quarterback at Wisconsin. So that I think that speaks pretty highly of Ethan Kaliakmanis.
Part of it is because his coach is Greg Schiano, who always has something up his sleeve when he plays Ohio State. Remember Andrew back in 23, he ran the Fumbarooski to keep the game close. So he's just fine though. I think Greg Schiano will scheme up something. Not to make it a 4-quarter game, but I think through 3 quarters, Ohio State's going to have to play a full 4 quarters with their starters. I think where I'm at with that. So I think Greg Schiano will put Ethan Kaliakmanis in positions where Rutgers might be able to throw a couple of punches. I just don't think Ethan Kaliakmanis is good enough to land those punches. So if you're going to throw a haymaker and miss, then you might as well not even throw the haymaker, because you know what's going to happen when you miss. Uppercut. Carnell Tate, who catches everything. Uppercut. Carnell Tate caught another one. Wild haymaker to the ribs. JJ just caught a 40-yard bomb.
I was about to say, has Buckeye Talk forgotten about Jeremiah Smith?
I am, yes. Can we do that? Can we underrate Jeremiah Smith for the rest of the year? Just so that I want to create this narrative.
Perfect second bye week pod. Is Jeremiah Smith underrated?
Yes, I want to do this because then I want to do it because then next year we can act like we weren't the ones who created the narrative that he was overlooked. So then we can go, I cannot believe nobody's talking about Jeremiah Smith. What's going on? How come nobody? I want to do
sleeper pick for 2026 Heisman, Jeremiah Smith from Ohio State.
Everybody forgot about him as the wide receiver 4 behind a slot receiver named Brandon Ennis, Carnell Tate, and Max Clare. And now he finally gets the roster to himself. Will he finally have the breakout year?
The Guardians fans who listen to our pod will know this reference. When the Guardians, I think in 2024, were preparing to play the Yankees in the playoffs, and someone asked Aaron Boone, the Yankees manager, like, is Jose Ramirez the most underrated player in the game? And Boone was like, you guys keep saying this. Like, I'm the manager of the Yankees. I know who Jose Ramirez is. Like, we're not going to pitch to that guy. Like, he is very good. Like, he is not underrated. Everyone knows how good he is. So us being like, Jeremiah Smith, underrated, like, there's 32 GMs in the NFL are like, what are you talking about? He's number one on all of our boards. The Yankees would trade so much to get Jose Ramirez. They do not think he's underrated.
So I do love this like concept of like in a semi more serious tone, like talking about somebody being underrated for so long that they've become like properly rated.
It's the Emeka Ibuka Award.
Yeah, it's like I was thinking about it.
Is it Carnell Tate now?
Yes.
Like, that's exactly what I was gonna say.
Yes.
Like I was gonna say, like the NHL. I remember, like I'm a hockey fan, and like they do this list like every year where it's like ranking the most underrated player, and for years it would switch between, I believe, Matt Barzal and Nick Backstrom in Washington. And it reached a point where like one of the coaches like said the same thing that Stefan was talking about, where it's like, he's like one of the best players in the league, and every year you guys say that he's underrated. Why? How? And then like the coach was like, is he underrated if every year we talk about how good he is because he's underrated?
Is Jose Ramirez
you're properly rated?
Is Jose Ramirez underrated, or does he just play for the Cleveland Guardians and the Yankees and Dodgers are in the headlines?
Is Jose Ramirez overrated?
No. Buckeye Talk is not going to say that.
No, we're not. Conversations about Jose Ramirez overrated. Jose Ramirez underrated.
So yeah, I'm starting the Jeremiah Smith underrated campaign. Gillis, where's Ethan for you?
He was number 7. I've never been impressed. No disrespect to what he's done in the first 2 weeks of the year. We're going to talk about this on the preview pod. Ohio's corners stink, and then he went out and torched Miami of Ohio too. So like, yeah, his completion percentage is up north of 70, and he's thrown 6 touchdowns and no picks this year. He's also done it against a MAC team that, like, frankly, I thought Ohio was better than, and they stomped Miami of Ohio. And then you go back and look at his game logs last year. Like, I just pulled this up. Whenever they played a good team, he didn't really play that well. Nebraska, 186, touchdown, 2 picks. Wisconsin, 12 of 32, no touchdowns and a pick. Illinois, 18 of 36, 2 touchdowns, 174. Like, he threw the ball well against UCLA and USC, but those defenses were pretty bad. Like, you go back and kind of look. Washington, 14 of 24, 115 yards and a touchdown. He's a perfect quarterback for Rutgers to go 7-5. That's what he is. Doesn't mean he's bad. I've never been like, whoa. I just think he's fairly average.
Okay, who's number? Say I've never been impressed. No disrespect. That's kind of disrespectful.
That's disrespectful. Who's number 6 into it? Who's number 6 for you, Andrew?
Drake Lindsay. I think 1, 2, 3, 4 are probably all the same for us, and it's just a matter of where. Again, this was a talent conversation thing for me. Like, I was kind of debating between Iamaleava and Lindsay, and I think Lindsay having not really done it at the college level before, that to me is interesting. He threw 5 passes last year. He's thrown 44 total this year. He's a redshirt freshman. Like, I get it. So is Nico, but at least Nico was a starter for an SEC team that went to the college football playoff. And I just think in terms of what Minnesota is going to be, like, we're going to talk about him in a couple of weeks. Minnesota's offense is going to be turn and give the ball to Darius Taylor. It's like the Friday Night Lights quote where it's just like, when they look at the quarterback, Mike Winchell, and they're like, dude, calm down. All you got to do is exist in those 2 seconds between the snap and getting Booby the ball. Yeah, all he's got to do is exist between the snap and giving Darius Taylor the football. And they have another backup running back who's really good too. Minnesota might be able to run the piss out of the ball this year. So I think Lindsey's fine. I think he's got upside, but I had him at 6 because I think he's a little bit better than some of the other guys on this list, but the talent for me is just not there with like Iamaliava or Underwood.
Julian Sayin played 7 more snaps than him last year and threw 7 more passes. They're the same. I don't know if the experience, if you're going to use an experience factor here, then Julian Sayin would be very low on this list, given the fact that Ohio State didn't do anything with him against Texas, but asked him to hand the ball off and throw it 5 yards in front of his face. And then he had 1 incompletion against an FCS school. Oh, wait. Drake Lindsey also had 1 incompletion against an FCS school and 1 through 10 more passes against the FCS school. Listen, I think Drake Lindsey is good.
Yeah, I'm in on Drake Lindsey.
Like, I'm all the way in on Drake Lindsey. In fact, if he were at James Franklin's still the coach there. If he were let's take a break. We can start our list here.
He was at Oregon.
Yeah, let's take a break because that's a good one too. But also, Gillis, you said our top 4 is the same. I don't think our top 4 is the same. I am super high on Drake Lindsey, and let's take our final break, and then we'll come back and get into our top 4, but also what is number 6 for Gillis here on Buckeye Talk.
Vitamin Water Zero Sugar has great taste, zero BS, and obviously zero sugar. For those with zero room in their calendar, zero patience for slow walkers. Those who get 0 hours of sleep on a Saturday night. Have zero filter, zero given, and zero interest in grabbing a plain, boring water. Grab a delicious Vitamin Water Zero Sugar today.
Hey, this is Bill Simmons from the Bill Simmons Podcast here to help you make the most of your summer with Michelob Ultra, a superior light beer worth playing for. Play for it with the guys when you're competing to see who can sink more birdies on the golf course, because winning tastes even better with Ultra on the line. Play for Ultra. Fill your fridge with Michelob Ultra this summer. Enjoy responsibly. Copyright 2025 Anheuser-Busch Michelob Ultra Light Beer, St. Louis, Missouri.
And we're back here on Buckeye Talk. Stephen Means, Stefan Krajisnik, and Andrew Gillis. We're ranking the threat levels of the quarterbacks on Ohio State's schedule this year. So far, my list, Ethan Kaliak-Manis from Rutgers at number 6. Billy Edwards has Danny O'Neal at Wisconsin at number 7. Nico Iamaleava at UCLA at number 8. Ryan Brown at number 9. Stefan has Kaliak-Manis at number 6. Nico at 7. Edwards / O'Neal at 8. Ryan Brown at number 9. So our lists are the same. And then Andrew, so far, his 6 through 9 are Drake Lindsey at Minnesota at number 6, Kaliak-Manis at Rutgers at number 7, O'Neal / Edwards at Wisconsin at number 8, Ryan Brown at number 9, and he also has Nico Iamaleava at number 5, which is where Stefan and I are. We are at our 5 and up spots. I think you guys are a no on all the quarterbacks you guys have named so far in terms of could they outplay Julian Sayin the week that Ohio State plays them. Okay, I have could by Edwards O'Neal, and it's because I want to see Wisconsin play
that's true.
Alabama this weekend. So I just have could. This is the first quarterback on the list that I would not be shocked if they outplayed Julian Sayin. This game is on October 4th. It's at Ohio Stadium. If this game was in Minnesota, whoo boy, I think this would be a fun little matchup in the middle of the season between 2 quarterbacks who I think are 2 of the 4 best quarterbacks in the Big Ten, not college football, in the Big Ten. You asked Stefan, what if he were at Oregon? That's hard too, because like Dante Morris might be a dude. That's the problem. The 3 best teams in the Big Ten right now all have 5-star quarterbacks, and then Michigan, if you want to throw them in there, have a 5. If he were at,
I'm not saying he would. I'm not saying he would start over Dante Moore. I'm saying the conversation of what he could do would be a lot different if he was at a school like Oregon.
I'd be saying Oregon was going to win the Big Ten this year. Or at least making a convert. I mean, I don't know. That's too far. See,
we would be saying they can, like, with Drake Lindsey. Could Drake Lindsey beat Ohio State at Minnesota? Maybe, maybe not. Could he beat Ohio State if he was at Oregon? Yes, absolutely.
Yes. I got to reel myself back in. I went too far. Yes, you are correct. I would be saying, Oregon, I'll see you in Indianapolis. And let's have a ball there. I have Drake Lindsey at number 3. I think he is good. He just hasn't played a real football game yet to show it. But you know who else we're talking like that about? Julian Sayin. He just happens to be driving a Ferrari while Drake Lindsey is driving a Ford F-150, I would say. PJ Fleck's a good football coach. He could scheme up some
Reliable.
ball. Yeah, he's
No free
reliable.
ads. No free ads, but Ford F-150, reliable.
Yeah, that was good. I didn't even think like that. I got to be better at that, man. I could have been a lot smoother there. But I think that PJ Fleck's going to have Minnesota ready to play Ohio State. The last time they played in 2023, not so much, but that Minnesota team was bad. The last time PJ Fleck had a quality Minnesota roster and they played Ohio State was in 2021, and they pushed them to the max. Now, he also had the benefit of playing CJ Stroud in his first ever start on a Thursday night in the rain in Minnesota. Drake Lindsey is going to get Julian Sayin 4, 5, 6, 7 games into his career as a starter, and this engine's going to be going and revving up already. So I don't think they can win. Do I think Drake Lindsey can outplay Julian Sayin for a Saturday night? Yes, I do. I do think we are going to leave that Minnesota game on October 4th thinking there are two really good quarterbacks in this game. One of them just so happens to play for a team that can win a national title. The other one plays for Minnesota. So number 3 in Drake Lindsey for me.
I like Drake Lindsey a lot. He's next on my list. I have him at number 5 on my list.
Okay.
So what I thought was interesting, Gillis, when you were talking about Nico and why you have him ahead of Drake, and maybe I'm selling Nico short a bit. Maybe I'm harsher on Nico than I should be. Think when it comes to talent at the collegiate level, I think we know what Nico is.
Mm-hmm.
What he is at the NFL level, I don't know. I think there's going to be a team that takes a shot on Nico in the NFL. I don't think it's going to be in the first round, but like if Nico's available in the 3rd, 4th, 5th round, there's going to be a team that takes a shot on him and thinks that maybe he can be something, and maybe he does develop into something in the NFL. We've seen it time and time again of guys become something in the NFL that we did not see at the collegiate level at all, right? There's another level of untapped potential that Kevin O'Connell could tap into better than Deshaun Foster and the UCLA staff, obviously. So I think I think I know what Nico is. I think there's a level of Drake Lindsey, a 3-star prospect who's still kind of, coming along, who's progressing, who's being developed, that can be better than what Nico is at the collegiate level. And I think when he gets some games under his belt, he can be a bigger threat to Ohio State than Nico. When they meet, that's like October 8th, that weekend, something like that.
Yeah.
So I am very high on Drake Lindsey and what this Minnesota staff can do, developing him into a collegiate quarterback. His story, there's something about it that I'm just like, I can picture whatever TV station has the Ohio State-Minnesota game. Listen, if Minnesota's any good, I think that's going to be a big noon game. So I'm just preparing myself for that because I think Minnesota is really good. I can picture Gus Johnson and Joel Klatt talking about like, this kid grew up basically on Arkansas's campus. They didn't recruit him, and now he's one of the 5 best quarterbacks in the Big Ten. And here he is. It's a tie game in the 4th quarter, and he's got the ball at Ohio Stadium. So I'm very in on Drake Lindsey, and I have him at number 5 on my list.
He's 6'5", 230 pounds, and can throw it. If I just gave you that description alone, without any background, if I just told you, hey, the quarterback is 6'5", 230, don't worry about where he plays at, don't worry about anything else, you would automatically go, oh, he was a 5-star recruit coming out of high school. No, he wasn't. Wasn't even close to a 5-star recruit. He's number 873 player in his recruiting class. 3-star recruit. I think Nico is benefiting from the fact that he was a 5-star recruit still. And I think, Andrew, that's why you have him higher than Drake Lindsey on your list. Because he's a former 5-star recruit who spent the year starting in the SEC.
Well, yeah,
Drake Lindsey. Sure, but like there are plenty of quarterbacks that you're about to name right now. There's 2 quarterbacks on your list right now who are higher than him, who have played less football than Nico has played. But because they are 5-star recruits and they play at blue blood schools, you're going to give them the benefit of the doubt.
Doesn't that mean, though, that I'm not giving Nico the benefit of the doubt? Because I have him
No.
down
It just
on the
means that
list?
because yes and no. It means you're not giving him the same benefit of the doubt you're giving to younger guys, but you are giving him the benefit of the doubt over a guy who was rated in the 800 and plays at Minnesota. And I'm not saying that's not wrong. Everybody does that. That's almost a normal way of thinking here.
I mean, I understand what you're saying, but my question would be, what has Drake Lindsey done to make you go, holy smokes, this guy's going to be a superhero?
What has Bryce Underwood done to make you go, holy smokes, he's going to be a superhero?
Not a ton.
Right. What has Julian Sayin shown you? Other than the fact that we cover him on a day-to-day, so we know a little bit more about him than we know about the field. What has he actually shown you against a quality opponent that lets you know, oh my goodness, he's going to be a superhero?
That he did really well with what they gave him against the number 1 team in the country. And it was very clear that he could have had more.
So just the schedule gave him the opportunity.
Yeah, because
okay.
Like the thing that I wanted to bring up, like here's my question. Let's compare. Do you mind if we compare Lindsey and Underwood for a second?
Well, I wanted to do that because I do think that's the proper.
So Lindsey 61% completion percentage. Underwood, 61.4. Underwood, 54.5.
Mm-hmm.
3 touchdown passes for Lindsey, 1 touchdown pass for Underwood. 1 interception for Lindsey, 0 interceptions for Underwood. Neither are good rushers. Lindsey, negative 13
I
yards.
wouldn't say they're not good rushers. I just think they haven't.
They haven't run.
Yeah.
Underwood minus 6 yards, Lindsey minus 13 yards. Okay, so like on its head, Lindsey's stats, they're better. Lindsey also played in a game that got canceled in the fourth quarter because the other team was getting killed so bad because there was a lightning delay and they were just like, you know what, guys, like we're good. You know what, we're done. We're done here. We don't need to do this. And Underwood got torched against Oklahoma, and like I just wonder, like, what if?
Hot take.
Who does Michigan play this week?
Oh, it's one of the suspended games. Central Michigan, Western Michigan.
Yeah. If you flipped those games, I think you're putting Underwood ahead of Lindsey. Like if it was New Mexico and then Central Michigan, I think you're putting Underwood ahead of Lindsey because Lindsey, 19 to 35, 290, 2 touchdowns and a pick against Buffalo in the MAC, and they scored 23 points. 54.3% completion percentage, 2 touchdowns and a pick is fine, but you're probably looking for better there. Underwood, 21 to 31, 251, and a touchdown against New Mexico. Those are fairly comparable opponents, and Underwood looked better in that moment. And I think you do have to take into account the talent. Like you do, like
I think you have to take into account that one plays at Michigan and one plays at Minnesota, and Michigan is.
I think that's totally fair as well.
I think if Drake Lindsey would have been Michigan's quarterback this past weekend, Drake Lindsey would have won the.
I would agree with that.
Interesting.
And sure, Bryce is an 18-year-old freshman who barely played college football. I mean, we just said it earlier. Drake Lindsey's played 20 snaps of college football before this year. Julian Sayin played 27 snaps of college football, and none of them were meaningful snaps. I think if Drake Lindsey was Michigan's quarterback, they'd be 2-0 right now. That's why I have Drake Lindsey. This is an environment conversation, which is why I turned this into a threat thing, because Bryce is going to be a bigger threat because of where he plays football. But Drake Lindsey's I think he's a better quarterback. And I think Minnesota is, if he is what I think he is, Minnesota is going to have a stressful December. A very, very stressful and expensive December.
I would hope he wouldn't go like to Arkansas.
I would hope. No. Oh, please don't go to Arkansas. Go. If you're going to leave, level up. Don't level down. In fact.
Well, I don't even mean like more so the level of like, you grew up in their backyard. They didn't want you. Like, don't go now.
No. I would say go to like, who's Arkansas's rival?
Like, I guess like Missouri, probably LSU in their bit.
Well, actually, no. Purdue has looked pretty good at Missouri so far.
Yeah. And Brady Cook was good there last year.
Yeah, I'm not going to poo-poo at that. Never mind.
I don't know if I'd leave Minnesota for Missouri, though. I think Missouri's a good program, but I think Minnesota is too.
I think they're the exact same program. I think they're the equivalent of each other in the Big Ten and the SEC. Yeah. Okay, so I got Drake Lindsey at number 3. Gillis has him at 6. Stefan, you've got him at 5. Who's number 4?
Number 4 for me is the first quarterback Ohio State's going to play in Big Ten play. I have DeMond Williams at Washington. I think his mobility paired with his passing is intriguing. He's a smaller guy, so it's going to be kind of interesting to see what that looks like going up against Ohio State's defensive line. But I think he's shifty. He can do some things, and I think he's just a good quarterback. I think the Washington. I think Fish there has done a good job of kind of establishing that this is Williams' team, and I think that became pretty apparent late last season when he came in. I can't remember if Will Rogers got hurt or if he just got benched, but Williams looked pretty good in that bowl game, and they did a good job this offseason of being like, this is his team. He is our quarterback, and I think the team has bought into that. He was at Big Ten Media Days in Vegas. He's looked the part through first couple games. Their game against Colorado State week 1 wasn't the cleanest, but I'm almost viewing that game in the same light that I view Oregon's game against Boise last year. You remember that? We were kind of like, obviously at the time we didn't know Ashton Jeanty was like a Heisman level guy, but we were telling ourselves like, man, Oregon didn't look good against that Boise State team, and their rush defense didn't look that good. And Oregon kind of just got their stuff together and beat Ohio State. And I think I view that Colorado State game in the same sense of like, Washington didn't look great, but it's week 1. You're kind of just trying to get some things together. And then Washington looked good week 2. I know I think they might be bye this week and then Washington State, or maybe that's the other way around. But I know they play Washington State with the chance to go 3-0, and then they play Ohio State. I think that's a Washington team that's going to have some juice. And DeMond Williams at the center of a lot of it. I'm big on him. I don't know what he looks like as an NFL prospect, but he's a guy who might be your prototypical, like, this guy's really fun at the collegiate level, really fun to watch. So I think I definitely think he poses a threat. That team and that environment with that quarterback poses a threat to Ohio State. That's going to be a tough environment for Julian Sayin to go into for his first true road game. as Ohio State's starting quarterback, or just first road game in general as Ohio State's starting quarterback. And Damon Williams, I think I could very well see him outplaying Julian Sayin and pulling off the upset.
2 questions for you. One, do you think Drake Lindsey can outplay Julian Sayin?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Probably, yeah.
Do you think Damon Williams could outplay Julian
Yeah, absolutely.
Sayin? Okay. I do too. I think both of these quarterbacks could outplay them. I have Damon Williams at number 4 for me as well. Andrew, where is Damon Williams, and do you think he could outplay Julian Sayin in what will be Sayin's first road game in the Big Ten?
Yes. He's number 3 for me. Williams is one of those guys to where I think, you look to the past and it's not just like, a Callie Ekmanis or Billy Edwards or anybody on this list where you go, you know what, they're dependable. They're fine. They're not hideous. They're starting quarterback in the Big Ten, but they kind of are what they are. Like Williams, I thought played really well against Oregon last year. I know Oregon beat the snot out of Washington. But his numbers in that game were pretty good. And then I remember I had the game on when we were in LA for the Rose Bowl. It was on like one of the background TVs, the famed Tony the Tiger Sun Bowl, which we all know and love and we all tune into every year. Damon Williams kind of cooked in that game. He went 26-32, 374 yards, 4 touchdowns, ran for 48 yards. They basically were like, here, Damon, give it, take it, because he had 20 rushes in that game as well. So, I mean, like Stefan said, I'm not sure what his NFL prospects are. This is one of those conversations where you have to look at it through a different lens, because could Damon Williams outplay Julian Sayin? Absolutely. Is Damon Williams going to get drafted higher than Julian Sayin? Almost certainly not. He's 5'11", and I think that might be a generous listing. This is just one of those dudes who you're going to look at and you're going to say, wow, that dude rocked, and might not do anything after college, but he rocks in college. And I think when you look back to what he was last year, I saw bits and pieces of that Colorado State game. Frankly, I didn't really care about the UC Davis game. You see a decent amount that you like. So I am curious how they look against Washington State next weekend. They have a bye week this weekend before they play Ohio State. So yeah, Damon Williams is number 3 for me.
I like that both of these teams have a bye before they play Ohio State, before they play each other, because it makes the game all that more interesting when you have 2 weeks to prepare for each other. I think the only reason I have Damon Williams as high is because it's going to be the first time this team plays on the road. If this game were October 11th, I think I would have Damon Williams lower than Drake Lindsey on my list. Because then at that point, it's like, okay, well, Julian's been through this before. It's fine. I know Washington can get a little crazy. I can't wait to get out there. Seattle, I've heard great things about Seattle. But when you're first, sometimes you get a little bit more juice just because you're the first person to do it. Because there's nothing like your first time. So now we're on our top 3s. Do Michigan and Penn State have to be the top 2 teams? Like, do Bryce Underwood
I don't think they have to be.
Are they on everybody's list?
Yes.
Okay.
Wait, you said you had Lindsey at 3, didn't you?
Yeah, I said top 2.
Okay, what was your order of 4 and 5?
Damon Williams and someone we haven't talked about yet.
Okay. Because I'm sitting here wondering who your number 5 is.
Yes. I'm trying to understand. Well, fine. I'll just say Luke Altmaier is my number 5. That game scares me less now.
After watching Duke, they looked pretty good in the second half. Luke Altmaier specifically looked pretty good in that second half.
Yeah, no. This is not a Luke Altmaier problem. It's a who do I think is a dude conversation. And I have Altmaier behind Drake Lindsey because I think the 4 dudes I have in front of Altmaier are 5-star blue blood program, 5-star blue blood program. Dude, I think is a dude. He just plays at Minnesota, and the first person who gets a crack at Julian Sayin, and he gets to play him at home. I think the Illinois game was like the thing we didn't know in the offseason before Julian had been named the starting quarterback. But we've now seen Julian Sayin for 2 games, and this is why, like, he hasn't played anybody yet. Yeah, but I've watched him throw a football, and he's layering throws in a way that typically, I don't know, NFL teams like to throw $40 million at quarterbacks to do every single Sunday. So you tell me what's more important right now. So it just scares me less from a quarterback matchup situation. I think, but also because we know more about this defense, and I do think that playing Illinois, playing Minnesota and Washington first, I think that's going to either kill my anxiety or just validate some of my anxiety about the defense already. The threat level of Altmaier depends on the 2 guys he plays before him.
Yeah. Well, we can do the Altmaier conversation because I assume, Gillis, you have him at number 3 as well, and a top 2. We can debate the Penn State.
I have Williams 3.
Yeah, he has Altmaier 4. No, he
No,
doesn't.
you have-
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
okay.
Why is he okay? Altmaier's number 3 for you, then, Stefan. We can start with you. So
Yeah.
let's evolve this conversation. Two things you have to answer here. Why is Altmaier number 3 for the field? But then also, why are Penn State and Michigan's quarterbacks in whatever order the top 2 for you?
So, okay, I'll start with Altmaier. I think Ohio State's defense, the conversation plays into this a bit because I am personally already sold on Ohio State's defense.
Okay.
To where I think a veteran quarterback might have the best shot of being able to, like, you look at some of the ways that Oklahoma confused Bryce Underwood, like having an older quarterback to go up against this Ohio State defense at home, I think is going to go a long way for a team like Illinois. That's why I have Altmaier as high as I do. I also was very high on Altmaier in the offseason. I'm still high on him. I just think his level of experience mixed with the talent, I think is really good. So I'm a Luke Altmaier believer. And then the other part, why I have Penn State, Michigan, or do they have to be my top 2?
Did they become default because of who they play for?
Yes and no. I think the Michigan guy maybe more than the Penn State guy, but I'm interested. I'm excited to have the Drew Aller conversation because I think I'm coming around maybe on Drew Aller.
Do you think Altmaier can outplay Julian Sayin? Okay. And do you think Luke Altmaier can outplay Julian Sayin?
Yep. I think he's the second of 3 on these guys where it's like, all right, this might be legit.
I don't think he can outplay Julian Sayin anymore. Upside. And it's if Illinois was September 27th, I think Luke Altmaier would be number 2 on my list. And I'd say, yes, I think he can outplay Julian Sayin because it's going to be the first time that Julian Sayin has to be Julian Sayin, and it means something. While Luke Altmaier is the veteran and he's at home, all the things that you just ran off, Stefan. The defense, all those different things. Because Julian Sayin is already going to have to do that twice, even if the teams might not be as good as Illinois. All right, well, we might know the answer on if Julian Sayin can do it when it matters already by then, right? When it means something that, he's layering throws over the middle of the field. So it just stopped meaning as much. So I went no here. Here and Drake Lindsay are the 2 places where I took hard lefts in a way that I think if we'd have done this in the preseason, I would not have thought. But Drake Lindsay's got a rocket arm, man. He's also a bit of a gunslinger. So listen, one of these 2 things are going to happen when they play Minnesota. Drake Lindsay's either going to have 350 and 3 touchdowns, and we're going to go, man, he torched Ohio State's defense. Or he's going to have 125 yards and 4 interceptions, and we're going to go, why did he make these throws?
You got to lean into someone now that you're wrong on Cade Klubnik.
Very wrong. Very, very wrong. And listen, as I said yesterday, sometimes the best thing you can do is admit you were wrong. I am very wrong about Cade Klubnik.
And I think we all had him as a Heisman finalist, so it's okay.
We had him winning the award.
Steven and I had him winning. And the funny thing about Steven saying we all have to admit we were wrong, is that Steven was in on him, and then we were like, no, you're wrong. And then he was like, I'm right about Cade Klubnik. I told you, Stefan. I told you, Andrew. Because remember, what did you have him in the playoff ranking?
I said he was the best quarterback in the playoff. And
you had him number 1. You were like, he's the best, and he's so good, and you guys are underrating him, and I was right, and ha ha. And then you get to the regular season, and it's like, oh, wait, I might have been wrong.
No. Listen, here's what it was. I was right. He was the best quarterback in the playoff last year. I was wrong because this year's crop of quarterbacks are significantly better than last year's crop of quarterbacks.
That's true.
I don't have to transitive property.
I had Arch winning the Heisman. I don't have to admit anything yet because I'm just going to say he's been hurt.
He's been wincing.
I
mean, Steve Sarkisian said he doesn't know what you look like when you go to the bathroom. I don't know what that has to do with Arch Manning throwing a football, but okay, sure.
He was throwing poop balls against Ohio State. That's what it means.
Gillis, where's Altmaier for you?
He's number 2.
Okay.
I'm kind of in on Altmaier this year.
Okay.
I do think there is something to be said for dude who's just played a lot of ball. He's thrown 723 passes in his career. I mean, I don't know if he's a COVID guy or if he's just a 5th year.
Everybody's a COVID guy at this point.
No, this is the last year.
I know. Listen,
the last year of the COVID.
Yeah, I know.
I believe it when I see it.
Yeah, there's no such thing as eligibility in college football anymore.
It's like,
everybody.
But
I think there's a team out there who has a 33-year-old punter. I think.
Good for him. Football. Never graduate. Never leave college. It's the best. I think when you look at kind of what he's done, like that has to matter. Like I understand. There are some people who go like, well, does it matter if you stink? Well, I don't think he stinks. Like he threw for 22 touchdowns and 6 picks last year, 2,700 yards. He's off to a really good start this year. Duke's defense is actually pretty decent. Andy Diaz is a good defensive coach. Like, I mean, you go look at the box for that game. I kind of was keeping an eye on that in the press box. 22 of 31, 296, 3 touchdowns. Like, I'll take that. Like, I'll take that every day of the week. So I have Altmaier number 2. I think he could outplay Julian Sayin, but there has to be some kind of event that happens on Julian Sayin's end. Like Julian Sayin, I think if he just goes out and plays clean, Julian's better.
So then he can't outplay him.
What's up?
Then he can't outplay him because that's the thing.
I mean, if Julian Sayin goes out there and throws a pick and Altmaier,
but sure, that's like
that's what I'm saying. Like I
don't think that's outplaying a guy
on Luke Altmaier's best day. He can outperform Julian's good day.
I see. That's to me. Okay, then that's fine. That's your definition. I'm not. We can all have our own. My definition was both of them bring their best, and this guy's better. Not this guy played bad, so this guy like. Julian Sayin has to play bad for Ryan Brown, Nico Iamaleava, Billy Edwards, or Ethan Kaliakmanis to outplay him, in my opinion. Luke Altmaier is kind of on the fence for me. Damon Williams is on the fence for me, and he outplays Julian because he's young and has never done this before. The top 3 for me are all guys who, well, at least 2 of the 3, I legitimately think can outplay Julian Sayin if they both bring their A game that day. On the day of that game. Only one of those guys who I think it's going to matter in terms of who wins the football game or not, and that's why he's my number 1 on the threat. And I'm sure this is the guy who's number 1 for you guys as well. But I don't have a lot of guys who I think if Julian Sayin is Julian Sayin can outplay him. That was my definition. If you're Stefan, it's fine.
I want to know who Gillis had at number 4 then.
Bryce Underwood.
Really?
Yeah. We talked about this.
No, I don't think we did.
We have not had that.
I asked where you had Luke Altmaier. You said number 2, and I'm sitting here thinking, okay, well, I know he's got a number 3, and now I got to fill in number 1 and number 4, and either Drew Aller's at number 4 or Bryce Underwood's at number 4.
I thought that was okay. Understood.
Well, then, like before Andrew gives his explanation, because these are the best 2 teams on the schedule in terms of Ohio State's relationship with them. So Gillis has Drew Aller at number 1 and Bryce Underwood at number 4. We're going very long today. We're going to go very short on pods next week. We're under 45 minutes next week. Number 1 is who, Stefan, for you?
Bryce Underwood, Michigan.
Okay, cool. All right, cool. Got a little worried there for a second. I thought I was going to be fighting on a hill by myself here. Whew, I was nervous. You almost had me there. You almost had me. Okay, why isn't Drew Aller number 1, Stefan? Let's start there.
Because of the school he plays at.
Do you think
here's the thing. I'm not going to buy into Penn State beating Ohio State until it happens, right? And for that reason, I debated maybe putting Drew Aller lower on this list because I'm thinking in my head like Ohio State at Illinois. I think Illinois might have a better chance of beating Ohio State at home as opposed to Penn State doing it on the road. I think Washington might have a better chance of beating Ohio State at home as opposed to Penn State doing it on. So I thought about putting Damon Williams and Luke Altmaier higher than Drew Aller. I thought about having Drew Aller at number 4, ironically enough, Gillis. But the reason I did stick with Aller at number 2 is part of what you've been saying, Stephen, of if both these guys are at their A game, can Drew Aller outplay Julian Sayin? Yes, absolutely. And also, I think if Penn State is going to pull it off against Ohio State, I think Drew Aller must play at his A game. I get it. Penn State has not done a lot to help him. The weapons around him have not been great in the past. I'm not going to disagree with that. The receiver play at Penn State has been poor, which is why I think NFL teams still look at Drew Aller and get really excited, where at the college level, we might have been wanting a little bit more from him last year. I'm in that boat of wanting to see a bit more from him. But if it clicks, like, it cannot be. If Penn State beats Ohio State, it's because we're not making excuses for Drew Aller anymore. Like, at some point, he's got to show up and be the dude against Ohio State. Regardless of what's around you, you got to make it happen. And I think if he does that, Penn State will beat Ohio State. Now, I don't think that's going to happen. I'm not going to predict that again. But I think Drew Aller does have that in him where he can show up and be the reason Penn State finally beats Ohio State, which is why I have him at number 2. I think he poses, if he's at his A game, he poses a major threat to Ohio State.
What does that look like? And I guess, Andrew, you can come into this part of the conversation too, because he's played Ohio State twice now. In 2023, he was 18 of 42 for 1 touchdown. Last year, he was 12 of 20 with an interception. So he's done 1 touchdown. His 1 touchdown in 2 games against Ohio State. Now, probably helps that the guy who was devising up the defenses to stop him now works in the same building he works in, and probably, he gave him those scouting reports. But if we think Matt Patricia's got this thing handled, then I mean, look at what Matt Patricia just did to Arch Manning, and that dude's supposed to win the Heisman Trophy and save football. Also, Ohio State has 2 weeks to get ready for Drew Aller with actual game film on Drew Aller. And Gillis, you've got him at number 1. Why?
Okay. I think there's 2 reasons here. Let's pretend I'm talking about Tim Johnson, the quarterback at an unnamed SEC school.
Mm-hmm.
And I tell you that he's in his 4th year as quarterback at a prominent program. His completion percentage is 63.3. He's thrown for almost 7,000 yards, 56 touchdowns, 10 picks, and he's a decent runner. He can get outside the pocket when he has to. And in a sport that for some reason and for some reason like makes it so sacks are negative rushing yards, he has 573 career rushing yards, along with 11 rushing touchdowns. So if you want to be, stickler about it, he's got 67 career touchdowns and 10 picks. The stats indicate he's pretty dang good. Then you get to the watch the game portion of things. And I think there's 2 schools of thought, and I agree with both of them. I don't think he's as good as that would indicate. I don't think he's as good as the stats that he has would indicate. I think that's totally fair. And I think there's a lot of people listening to this right now who will say, no kidding, Andrew, thanks for the heads up. Is the sky blue today? You going to tell us that information? Thanks, buddy. Sure. I think it's also important to note, 1, he's probably not as good as the stats say, just in terms of his ability on the field. But 2, I watched that Oregon game and the Big Ten championship game, and that dude was slinging it all over the yard, and that dude was the only reason that Oregon didn't run away with that football game. And you also pair that with the fact that I don't think, like, this was a stat in the Orange Bowl when they played Notre Dame where it was like, oh, their receivers don't have a catch this game. I don't think that was because Aller wasn't hitting open dudes. I think they played a good secondary and his wide receivers couldn't fight their way out of a paper bag. Like, they couldn't get open, and maybe this year's different. We'll see with Penn State's receivers. That's a whole other issue we'll get to in November, or I guess late October. But he hasn't had good receivers. He's putting up decent numbers, and the dude can throw it really well. I'm an Aller believer. I think this dude is better than some people think. I don't think he's like first overall, lock it in good, but I think he's a very clear first-round talent at quarterback who's got all the talent in the world, who does make some dummy boy decisions from time to time. But I don't think he's necessarily been helped out by his situation as much as you might think. And I like Aller a lot.
Do you think he can outplay Julian Sayin on November
Yes, I do.
1st? Okay. Stefan?
Yeah, no, I think he can. Gillis, I mean, I have him at number 2 on my list. It's not like I have him at number 7. Like, I agree. I think he's a talented quarterback, and I think he's done things at times to make you believe like he can do it. The problem is, I think in the same vein, when I watch him play against Ohio State, my immediate reaction is, geez, these receivers stink. Like, he's not getting any help. But at some point, it falls on him too. I think 2 things can be true. I think our natural reaction has made a lot of excuses for the fact that he also hasn't looked great when he has played Ohio State. So I think 2 things can be true.
I'm just trying to figure out what the it is. Like, what's the it? Like, what do we mean it? He has 18 career games of at least 200 yards. He has 8 games of at least 240 yards. Like, the Oregon game, yeah, he played well, Andrew, and he was 20 of 39, and he threw 2 picks. Like, what is... He's number 2 on my list because he plays for Penn State, and Penn State has the talent to beat Ohio State. They also are coached by James Franklin, so I don't think they're going to actually beat Ohio State. So if I don't actually believe in Penn State's ability to beat Ohio State, if I don't actually believe in the ability for James Franklin to outcoach Ryan Day, if I don't believe in those 2 things, why am I going to pivot with the third thing that matters in terms of winning that game? Of what has Drew Aller shown me that suggests he's going to outplay Julian Sayin? He didn't outplay Will Howard last year, and Will Howard fumbled a ball in the end zone and threw a pick 6. He didn't outplay Kyle McCord in 2023, and Kyle McCord threw a pick 6 that only got called back because somebody tackled Marvin Harrison to the ground. And Ryan Day had so little trust in his starting quarterback that with 3 timeouts in 1 minute and 30 seconds, he kneeled the clock out at halftime. And that guy was still better than Drew Aller was that day. We all think Julian Sayin's better than the last 2 quarterbacks Ohio State's had, right? Okay. We'll see with the Justin Fields, Dwayne Haskins, CJ Stroud, right? I think we need to see some football to watch that first, but that's the table we think he's about to pull a chair up to. And there is a gap in overall NFL arm talent and quarterback talent between where those three sit at a table and where Will Howard and Kyle McCord are at as a table. And that's with all due respect to what both of those guys did here. Kyle McCord lost one game as a starter, and Will Howard won a national championship. They are not top 15 NFL draft picks the way that Julian Sayin might be and the way that those other three were. They are 6th-round draft picks. So if Drew Aller, as the guy who's to Andrew's point, people think he might be a 1st-round draft pick. If that guy couldn't outplay the 6th-round draft picks, why am I supposed to believe he's going to outplay the 1st-round draft pick? Especially when that game is November 1st, when he'll have already played a gluttonous of the quarterbacks on this list who we think are pretty decent and probably gotten through those games.
Can and will, I think, are two different things, because like right now, if you were to say like, Andrew, who's going to play better, Drew Aller or Julian Sayin? Taking Julian Sayin.
I don't think he can outplay Julian.
Oh, I think
Sayin.
Okay. So that's where we differ.
Nothing has shown me in the 2 games I have watched Drew Aller play against Ohio State, or anybody else for that matter, that can tell me he will outplay another elite quarterback. Because what elite quarterback has he outplayed? Now I sound like a hater. I sound mean now, right? But seriously, would you say...
sound like you're talking about Penn State football.
But seriously, Andrew, he had a good Big Ten championship game. Would you say he outplayed Dylan Gabriel?
No, I don't think so.
Would you say he outplayed Riley Leonard?
No. Okay. Riley Leonard was better that day.
Okay, so an undrafted quarterback and a 5th-round quarterback.
I think Riley Leonard
got drafted. Did he get drafted? I don't remember.
He might have gotten drafted. It was late. It was like one of those. It was one of those picks where you like turn off the draft and go for a walk.
I just listed off 4 day 3 picks that he did not outplay, and now you want me to believe that this quarterback on this team with this coach is going to outplay, out quarterback, and out coach this team with this coach and this quarterback. I just don't believe it. I don't believe in it anymore. He's number 2 on my list because Penn State's a good football team, and that's going to be a 4-quarter game. I think if Drake Lindsay was Penn State's quarterback, I would have more fear in Penn State. But then I'd go, oh, wait, no, James Franklin's still the coach. So breathe.
Part of this, too, is like, if you think it's going to be a 4th-quarter game, can Drew Aller put together the drive that Julian Sayin doesn't? You don't think so? Not a chance?
No, because that's what happens. It falls apart in the 4th quarter every time. That's why.
Fair
You're
enough.
right. That's because that's the question I asked myself. Okay, if it gets to the 4th quarter, if Drew Aller's in the same exact position Arch Manning was in at the end of the Week 1 game, do I think we see a different result? No. I think we're all going to have anxiety because we're like, oh no, we have to write 2 different stories just in case Ohio State loses. And I'm going to sit there like, nah, we're good. I just don't believe in it anymore. I'm out. But also, this isn't just like a big... Penn State has not looked good for 2 weeks. And I know a lot of these teams have played absolutely nobody. Penn State shut out FIU, but their offense, it took a while for that to get going. They have not looked good. And that's why they're actively falling in the AP poll. It's not just because LSU and Ohio State have quality wins. Oregon just smacked around a Power 4 school last week. Miami looks... Oh boy, I'm a Miami boy this year. I'm just saying, I just don't believe in it. Okay, Bryce Underwood is number 1 for Stefan and I. And it's because it's the conversation we just had about Penn State. It's because until we see it, we don't believe in it. Well, the Michigan thing, which I think is going to be an interesting conversation when we actually get the Michigan week, especially now that we've seen Bryce Underwood. But I think, Stefan, both of you, and I'm trying to wrap this up because we've been going for almost 2 hours. So correct me if I'm wrong on any of this assessment for why Bryce Underwood is number 1. He plays for Michigan. Ohio State's lost to Michigan 4 years in a row already. One of the losses was with a terrible quarterback play, and now he's a 5-star quarterback. And yes, he didn't look good against Oklahoma, but that was his first time playing in a big boy college football game. He's going to have plenty of games after that to grow into the role. And so the version of him we saw against Oklahoma is not going to be even close to the version we see of him on November 29th, just like it's the same thing with Julian Sayin. And by the time they get on the field together, these two might be going to war.
Yes, and the only thing I would add is the struggles against Oklahoma. I said on the Leave No Doubt pod, I put a lot of that on Sharon Moore and that staff.
Yes.
What they did, for whatever reason, Sharon Moore knows how to coach up for the game.
Okay, cool. Andrew, he's not number 1 for you. He's number 4.
Yeah, my question would be to you, like you were saying, like he's a 5-star, and I think that's all you're looking at. I mean, the man went to Oklahoma and looked like he had never played quarterback before. Now, do I think that means he's going to suck?
Because he literally hadn't.
Yeah, But like we have 2 points of data, and like he played really well, I thought, against New Mexico. Stefan, you and I and Jimmy were watching that game together. Like there's some throws he's making that are like really nice.
Yeah.
And then he goes to Oklahoma and he gets cooked. So like I just disagree with the notion of like having him number 1, because like if Bryce Underwood had started and he was the 200th ranked recruit and he looked like he did, and he looked the same, he runs the same, he throws the same, everything about him is the same, but his 247 composite was lower, I don't think he's number 1 on your guys' list.
He'd still be number 1.
If you did a 2024 hindsight rankings, Alex Orji would be number 1 on your list.
Yeah, I think he'd still be number 1 on my list. He plays for Michigan. But also, he looked like he had never played quarterback before. He hadn't. He played New Mexico.
Yeah, so that's why I have him number 4.
He literally hadn't played quarterback before. And he's not supposed to be. 18-year-olds who just graduated from high school 4 months ago are not supposed to be starting quarterbacks in college football, which is why it never goes well. Even Trevor Lawrence shared the job with Kelly Bryant for 4 games before they gave it to him completely. Tua didn't get thrown into the game until the national championship. Dylan Raiola didn't look great last year. You're not supposed to, but he got better throughout the year. So I get it. Like, we cover Ohio State. And so if you're an Ohio State fan, you watch that game and go, you paid $10 million for that? No, they didn't pay $10 million for that. They paid $10 million for what he might be at the end of this year, all next year, and the year after that. This is just part of the process of what you have to buy when you do that. When you buy something off Amazon, you got to wait for it to get to you, right? And it might take a little bit. Most of the time, it takes 24 hours, but they have some things that can take like 3 or 4 days, depending on what it is. Give it some time. And also, he plays for Michigan.
Yeah, and sometimes you do that like thing where it's just like you could do 1 or 2 day delivery, but if you do 5-day delivery, guess what happens? You get like $1.50 towards Amazon movies or something.
And that's what we're banking on.
And then if you wait a little bit extra, it might show up later.
But that's what Stefan and I are banking on. If you just give it 2.5 months and not judge him against you can feel how you want to feel about Brent Venables as a coach. He's a hell of a defensive coordinator. And that was a road game. If we're going to give Arch Manning grace for not looking good against Ohio State, we have to give Bryce Underwood grace. Well, not grace. This is Ohio State fan. You don't have to give him grace. You can't check out on him. And I don't even think they're giving Arch grace, but you can't check out on a dude who at literally any other school right now, he would be developing in the background and we'd be doing what we're doing with Tavian St. Clair and going, hey, man, how's he doing? And Brian's like, yeah, man, he's working the scout team. We'll see if we'll get him in this year. 350-3315. Those are our list. My 1 through 9. Bryce Underwood, Drew Aller, Drake Lindsey, Damon Williams, Luke Altmaier, Ethan Kaliak-Manis, Billy Edwards / Danny O'Neal, Nico Iamaleava, and Ryan Brown. Stefan's Bryce, Drew, Altmaier, Williams, Lindsey, Kaliak-Manis, Iamaleava, Edwards / O'Neal, and Brown. And then Andrews, Aller, Altmaier, Williams, Underwood, Iamaleava, Lindsey, Kaliak-Manis, Edwards / O'Neal, and Ryan Brown. Those are the threats, the biggest threats on the list for Ohio State. Some good quarterback matchups, and that actually starts on Saturday with Parker Navarro. Though we don't think Parker Navarro is going to win, but we do think he can maybe poke some holes in his defense, and we'll get into what we think those holes might be on the game preview pod. We just went 1 hour and 50. I promise you right now, this is the last time we're going to go 1 hour and 50 for a while. We're going to start trying to tweak these down a little bit. The long pods are great, but I feel like they can also be kind of mundane, and I get it. Sometimes it feels like it can be a lot. Unless you're driving. If you're on a road trip, then listen, turn this pod on, and I promise you'll be there by the time you get done with that. 614-350-3315. It's a two-week free trial, $3.99 after that. Those are our threat level quarterbacks for Ohio State's Big Ten schedule, which does start in 3 weeks. But in terms of overall good quarterbacks are going to play, 11 of their 12 games are against at least decent quarterback play, which I think is a good thing. And I think it shows you where the conference is headed, plus what they have to play in the non-conference schedule. So for Stefan Krajisnik and Andrew Gillis, I'm Stephen Means, and that was Buckeye Talk.